Reaper.
And I'm Luna Reaper.
And this is
A Frightful Eve.
This evening, we will be reviewing Barbarian, about a young woman who discovers her rental home is occupied by a stranger, and after agreeing to share the space until the morning, finds that a double booking is the least of her worries.
But first, the horror news.
The official trailer for Hocus Pocus 2 dropped this week to give us a first real look at our new protagonists, Billy Butcherson, and of course the infamous Sanderson sisters, making their return to Salem once again after 19 years. Three young women, Becca, Izzy, and Cassie, accidentally bring back the witchy sisters to modern-day Salem and must figure out how to stop them from wreaking havoc on the world. The Sandersons will be flying their brooms, and Roombas apparently, to the home screen this September 30th.
November 18th will be the release of The Menu. This film focuses on an elaborate culinary getaway that is beyond pretentious to our main character Margot, while tasting complex dishes created by a cold and unreadable head chef. Something's not quite right. Everything takes a turn when the head chef asks the question, "Are you with us or with them?" A suspenseful tale of hunter versus prey, you can look forward to being at the edge of your seats enjoying what seems to be a comical and witty thriller.
It's only been 21 years since Trish and Derry encountered a horrifying legend, but that hasn't stopped the Creeper from making a comeback early with Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Forced to travel with her boyfriend Chase, Lane begins to experience premonitions associated with the urban myth of the Creeper. She believes that something supernatural has been summoned, and that she is at the center of it all. You can catch The Carnage, presented by Fathom Events, in select theaters on September 19th.
Netflix released The Imperfects early this September. Three seemingly normal teens with the abilities that the corrupt would do anything to own. A banshee, chupacabra, and succubus are kidnapped and experimented on by a scientist looking to create the perfect monster. Despite the occasional swearing, this looks to be a great young adult series with its coming-of-age themes. Our trio, while being hunted down by the government, as well as a faceless nightmare, in order to escape being lab rats the rest of their lives, are certainly on the search for normal existence.
Fright Fest will be unleashing its ghouls at Six Flags this week for select dates September 16th through October 31st. Some of the most popular and staple haunted attractions will be returning, such as Bloodshed, Big Top Terror, The Manor, Aftermath, Fears, and Reflections of the Dead. The Haunted Attraction Pass is $35, or you can get to the Fear faster with the Express Pass for $55. If that's all too frightful for your young ones, Six Flags has their daytime Boo Fest September 17th to October 30th, with family-friendly rides, trick-or-treat trails, and other fall festivities. You can get the tickets for the location nearest you now at the Six Flags official website.
Nightmare at Gravity Hill is opening once again September 16th. A local stable spread through 5 acres of land in Jackson, New Jersey to keep the nightmare going. While waiting to enter such an elaborate setup, enjoy classic clips from your favorite horror movies, as well as theatrical music videos commonly enjoyed by rock and metal fans. Once your wait is up, prepare to enter a whole town of your most horrific dreams. The construction, costumes, and acting will always impress year after year. It is impossible to describe everything that awaits you here without spoiling the fun, but rest assured, you'll be heading back to your car, checking behind you every step of the way.
For more information on these events, check the links in the description below.
And now for the review of Barbarian.
Well, Luna, there was a lot to unpack in this film.
Yes, there was, but we first have to start off with, we loved it.
Yeah. It definitely impressed. It was a lot more of a 360 plot twist through and through the entire time. from beginning to end, and it took a lot of risks in that way, but it actually turned out pretty good. It could have turned really ugly, but it actually did it well.
Yes. The trailer doesn't even get to the tip of the iceberg.
No, and I thought that was one of the coolest aspects about this, was that the advertising for this movie sets you up for something entirely different from what you get in the long run.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think, you're going in for an average horror film, and it turns out to be the exact opposite. It's very, it's impressive just how much the advertising sold that aspect of the film.
Yes, and you remember from our first sort of summary of this before we even saw it, we got the impression that it was going to be more of a Saw situation. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that at all.
Yeah, right, just trapped in the basement kind of thing, or trapped in the house.
Fighting for your lives, possibly fighting amongst each other's to live. It was
and that's
that.
They only show, from the trailer perspective, that basement. So
yes.
you get the sense that that's as far as the house goes.
Yep.
So on top of there being layers to the story, there's also layers to the house. Yes. And you just go from the basement to this entire underground neighborhood area, where Richard Brake's character Frank is keeping all these women held hostage. A completely separate storyline from everything else that you're diverging into.
Yes.
So I mean, that in and of itself is it's a lot of fun.
Yep, I definitely can go for that. I mean, the casting was great, acting was fantastic. Of course, Skarsgård. He's a freaking looking dude. Yeah, and it works for him. We all know it. We all love him for it.
He's got the Steve Buscemi eyes.
Yeah, he's got the Pennywise eyes.
Right, the Penny. Yeah, right.
I mean, I can't. It's so hard to separate them.
Wide apart.
It's something. Georgina, I don't know if I recall her from anything before this, but I think she did a really great job. Our character Tess.
Yeah, Tess. Yeah,
job.
Georgina Campbell, who plays her, definitely could have a solid career going for her in the horror industry if she decides to continue with that.
Yep.
Definitely a great final girl for this film.
Yes.
And going back to some of the things that kind of take this movie to the next level from other ones that we've seen recently. I think one of the more refreshing aspects was the fact that the cinematography kind of took a dare on certain aspects.
Yes.
The high frame rate for certain shots that kind of give you that disorientation when she's looking over her shoulder, certain things when the door closes on its own. The looking from the character's perspective when AJ's stuck in the tunnels trying to fend for himself against Mother.
Yeah, it definitely gives you the panic of you yourself looking around being like, what's that sound?
Right, yeah.
Definitely.
It had almost like a Call of Duty vibe with the knife in one hand, the flashlight in the other, and you're just looking like, whoa, what where's it coming from next? And that was kind of cool too. The again with just how the story unfolds. So you have Georgina as Tess and Skarsgård as Keith, and the two of them, you just assume that Keith is the bad guy from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Come to find, this room in the basement of this place that they're staying at. First discovery of Mama is Keith crawling out, and that was another thing too.
That got you good.
Oh my god, yeah. And that was like one of the aspects of this film with the different types of scares that it had, going from your traditional jump scares and stuff, but even that camera work, that jarring effect of the frame rate.
Yes.
Where when she's looking over her shoulder and you're like, oh, that's freaky, like you get that jarring sensation. And same thing goes for when Skarsgård comes out of the hallway after he gets bitten on the ankle. It's like, I didn't get scared in the sense that it was like a jump scare. I got like chills up the back of my spine because I was like, ugh. Just the way that he crawled out to her, I was like, oh, no, stop, please.
Yeah, I don't know if body acting is the right term, but he's just so good at just like...
being a little, like kind of contortion-y.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I could see him taking from Pennywise and kind of attributing to this, even in, as the victim. Yeah. It's still something that's kind of squirmy and wormy about him.
A theater kid through and through.
Right. Yeah, and, also just in terms of cinematic style, something that I appreciated, which we do on the show, is the 80s flashbacks being letterboxed to be 3:4 ratio during Richard Brake's character, and you learn about his backstory and him, I guess...
being all types of messed up?
Yeah, being a real wacky, scary individual.
At first
as Richard Brake is.
You think he's a serial killer, and he's just so much more.
Yes, yeah. That's, I guess, again, with every plot twist and turn that comes thrown at you right in your face every 10 seconds of this film, you go in with the intention, once you start learning about his backstory a little bit, you're like, okay, he's a messed up dude. You think, I thought at least at first that the mother, the monster that is living in this basement of this house that they're renting out, was just one of his victims that got left behind, and you come to find that it's generations
of diddling.
Generations of diddling, yes. And it's I love the homeless guy who is the hero for all of 10 minutes of screen time before he gets brutally beaten to death with his own arm.
I think that was, besides the arm, that was the one thing that we could see a mile away, though. Like, you know that character that gives the warning, that gives the advice, like, that
bad things are happening in this house. Yeah.
They're done.
And I will say I didn't expect it to come from the same guy that looked like he was going to attack Tess the first night that she gets there.
Got it.
I looked at that and I thought that was just setting the tone for the neighborhood being a bad area. I didn't think that he was going to come back. Yeah.
See, I feel I've definitely seen that before where, like, the person that's like, oh, they're crazy, they don't know what's up, but they know what's up. And when I saw that he was running towards her, I knew it was one of those, like, there's something in the house, like, or there's something about the house, like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
somehow, I don't know, it didn't click for me initially. The second time around, it was like, oh, okay, like, he's trying to get her out of the house, break the window, get her out, pull her out from from that situation.
Yeah.
And Mama looking all mean and angry from the window.
Mama's pissed.
And she turned out really, I found out that was, there was a guy who played the mother.
I'm not surprised by that.
I'm not entirely, I'm not so shocked, but it was just one of those things. I was looking through the IMDb page for the film.
Classic.
And I was like, oh, like, it just, with the massive amounts of prosthetics and makeup that went into it, I mean, they did a phenomenal job at covering that person.
Well, here at A Frightful Leave, we are a sucker for just kind of really building that suit and not so much doing CGI, but more so practical effects, like the makeup.
All practical.
Suit. It was awesome.
Practical effects are the best effects.
It looks so good.
Yeah, I mean, they did that well. They did a lot of the gore very well. Keith getting his head smashed open was like, and that's I think another cool thing about the transitions going from story to story was like, they took you from a place where up until that very point you think Keith is just tricking her or somehow the killer, and like she's freaking out too. Tess is thinking like, oh my god, I really don't know if this guy is or if he's just acting or whatever. And then all of a sudden Mama just comes flying through the hallway, smashes his head repeatedly into the wall, screams at Tess, and then just cut to Justin Long.
I think my face during that entire scene was just
right, just slowly recoiling back like and then cut to Justin Long driving his car, as AJ driving his car, singing along, and it's like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Who's this guy now?
I think we made that motion in the movie theater.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just the arms in the air, like,
what?
Where are we? That's where, and it really felt like it was a whole nother movie.
Yeah.
From that point until the story ties in.
Yes.
Which is a great. I love the fact that AJ, as the director guy, and he gets caught for the sexual assault allegations and all that, and it starts ruining his whole career. You start seeing this whole downward spiral. It's kind of like this moment of comedic relief to watch him just start spiraling out of control.
Yes.
Kind of just desserts for everything that he's done.
Yes.
And that's like at first you're uncertain, and then he starts talking to his friend, and he's like, suddenly you realize the frat boy in him.
Yeah, he was definitely great comic relief. At first I was like, oh, maybe it's a director, someone's trying to get some money, like,
right.
Really, and then you hear him talk to his friend and really unfold about things. You're like,
so you're
gonna get
guy.
it. You're gonna get it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So you have this entire narrative of AJ's character up until the point where it crosshairs from the original plot that you've left now for a good 20-30 minutes.
Yeah.
And you finally get to, he's like, oh, I have some properties in Michigan that I can sell for these legal fees to pay for my legal fees. And then come to discover everything.
Yeah.
And get sucked right into it.
Yeah.
And he's such a wormy character from the start.
He plays it so well. I
Yeah.
mean, Justin, I think he's played that sort of trope before, and he's just so good at it.
Right.
Like, you just want to beat him up a little bit.
A little, yeah, right. Yeah, it's kind of satisfying to watch the mother try to feed him the bottle, and he's just not having it, so then he gets breastfed.
Oh.
And
that was rough.
Oh my god! And that's again like one of those things with in terms of fear factor. That's not just jump scares, like the grossness aspect of when she's handling the bottle down and the hairs.
Yeah.
On the end of the, I was like, please,
so good.
Please don't.
It was great.
And then breastfeeding on top of that. Yeah. Oh my god.
While she's watching,
watching
at the end, it's just someone trying to be a good mother, and that's where you feel really bad because they have the tutorial on, how to feed the baby, and she's following along with it, and that's all she wants is.
And she doesn't know any better.
No.
It's generations of inbreeding.
Yes.
That has created something that is incapable of understanding anything more than what she's learned from this little VHS tape about how to be a good mother.
Yes. Which obviously Frank is just done having babies and should be done having babies long before.
Frank, at that point, is so emaciated.
Bedridden.
Bedridden. There's literally nothing more that he could possibly have done except for blowing his brains out the way he did.
I mean, as he should.
Yeah. And that was another skeevy moment. Like, AJ putting in the VHSs and, like, not even, there's no visual, but, like, just hearing it in the background is like, oh my god, this is, and suddenly all the pieces that are starting to fall into place. The room right before the long hallway with the camcorder and the handprint on the wall, and just the singular bed. It's like, oh,
you did some stuff.
You did some stuff. Yeah, that was, he always plays something about all the characters that he's ever been, at least in the movies that I've seen him in, always makes my skin crawl.
Yeah. Great job.
Great
Did exactly what it was supposed to do. Thumbs up for making us feel super weird in the best way.
Thanks, Richard Brake.
Thanks, Richard.
So moving on to winding down to the end of the film. You have some great scenes, a little tip of the hat to Justin Long's Jeepers Creepers moment.
Yes.
That
was a great kill.
Yeah.
For sure.
Losing his eyes. And that...
Getting his eyes gouged out.
Gouged.
By mom's thumbs.
Yeah. Mom had enough of this spoiled brat and just let him have it.
Yeah.
And there was a moment there I really thought there was not going to be that resolve. Even though his character was as bad as it was, I thought they were going to leave it on sometimes the bad guy does win. And I was afraid of that because he's obviously a nasty human being. Yeah. You kind of want to have that relief. And thankfully, after throwing Tess from the water tower,
yes.
After, all this stuff he's talking about, like just fending, he's like, oh, I'm gonna set things right. I'm gonna do the right thing now.
You thought he would have learned, but he didn't.
Yeah, you thought he was gonna have this hero's moment. Not that he could ever redeem what he did, but at least. Try to move forward as a better person from that or something.
Especially having that monologue saying how, he doesn't know whether he's a bad person or if he's a good person that did a bad thing. You thought he was having some sort of realization until he was put back into danger again of Mother coming up the water tower to their demise. You would think that he was somehow sacrificing himself for Tess or getting Tess out of the way, but he really was just like, distraction.
Yep, and just pushes her right off the tower. And the same thing happens when he accidentally shoots her in the hallway, which is understandable given the circumstances.
I guess.
But it becomes a matter of he's looking at it like, oh, this is going to be even worse press than what's already out on me. So rather than calling anyone, cops, paramedics, somebody, he's just like, I'm gonna get you to safety. I'm gonna bring you. You're fine. You're fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
He just tries to play it off. And same thing with up until that scene on the water tower, he's talking about, oh, I'm gonna set things right. I'm gonna save her. I'm gonna do whatever I can. The homeless man brings them into his humble abode. And then he's like, oh, Mama's never gonna come here.
Such confidence.
Yeah, I know.
And then Mama came home.
Granted, I mean, he had no reason to suspect that otherwise, because I'm assuming he's never dealt with any of Mama's children up until that point.
Fair enough.
So...
I did think it was odd that he had the wisdom to say, like, you can't be here at night because that's when she comes, and I'm not sure why he thought that cardboard walls were going to be what stops her.
Right.
He was smarter than that up until that point.
I guess it was more so what she was interested in finding at night.
Fair.
I guess maybe he just wasn't what she was after or whatever the case may have been. That was sort of, that kind of brings us to another point where there was so much packed into this film in terms of separate plots that there was certain little things that did just sort of get lost in translation.
Yeah.
Like we were talking before about the when she first gets to the Airbnb and she has that phone call from another Marshall or something. I don't know if that's her husband or something, but that is a plot point that's never elaborated on again.
No.
She has those missed calls and that's it.
Unless it was supposed to mention how she really is just like, don't bother me. I'm focused on getting this interview right, but...
Right, sort of setting the tone.
Why put such a detail in there to never acknowledge it again?
Yeah. And same thing, too, with the... whether or not this was Mother on the top level of the house moving those doors, but that seems kind of far-fetched.
Yeah.
Like the doors moving on their own and then no footsteps, no nothing. I mean, she's a huge...
Oh, yeah. She's a beast.
Mutant.
She is something. But the doors closing and locking just because that's what they do.
Yeah. That I can understand for the basement door, if it's just a faulty, if it just happens to do that on its own,
But
because that's why she puts the chair,
Yeah.
But yeah, the bedroom on its own, when it hadn't done that the entire time they were there, how?
Weird.
Was there just so happens, another plot point, there's a ghost in the house, The
ghost of the women.
That's a scary thought.
Big brain thought.
Oh my god. I like that. I think we just gave
we cracked the case.
Yeah, right.
No more. We're done here.
20th Century Fox, I think was that the people responsible for this film? I forget who actually.
That's a great question.
But whoever did that, you're welcome. Yeah, so just a few missing plot points, which again, the film kind of makes up for, I think, in just overall bizarreness and keeping that entertainment aspect going throughout the entire. Like, there's never a dull moment.
No, there's not. And getting me to root for Mom. Right, I had such a soft spot for her by the end of the movie. Yeah. I mean, she protected her babies.
I love the couple of sequences of her, especially with AJ when he's, that's like the shift in power kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like he's on the receiving end of it now.
Yep.
And she's just like,
yeah.
Like just trying to be so like,
Don't get me wrong. If we were in that position, I'd probably be. The stomach would be churning.
Oh yeah.
But she's just trying to be.
Yeah, right. Well, Tess is the smartest member of that group at that point, because she's like, she just wants to be a mother. Yeah. Like, she totally understands from the point of being captured that's it. And she drinks the bottle like a champ.
Yeah.
And she's just like, drink it or she will get angry. And she rolls with the punches all the way through, gets shot, takes it like a champ.
Oh.
Like, she, in all actuality, is a really phenomenal final girl.
Yeah.
I would love to see her again in another horror film of some kind, or even, I don't know, well, she wouldn't really be in a prequel for something like this.
Oh.
But that would also be, yeah, right. But that would also be an interesting, side note too, for Richard Brake's character, if we came back and kind of looped around and kind of saw more about, because you only see, and we talked about that too, the scene where he's in the house, he turns the water on, and then he like unlocks the window and all that.
Yes, when he gets into his either first or one of victim's house, saying that he was part of the town, gonna check something, helps her out. And she's, just welcomes him in, and he's really just prepping the house to be broken into.
Right.
Like, that would have been awesome to even see on its own.
Yeah, exactly. More of that, as sadistic as it would get. It would probably be, in
that would be a messed up movie.
Yeah, like the
and we would love to see it.
The skeeviness of like something like Devil's Rejects or something like that level. It would definitely be as sadistic as like one of those, Last House on the Left or something along those lines. But it would be interesting to delve into that character, especially if you bring back Richard Brake as the lead role, and then get to the point of creating Mother, like going all along that line. I would be interested to see that. Yeah,
it would be like, those Metamorphosis novels that we would see as kids.
Yeah. Yep.
It'd be a really bad Metamorphosis novel.
The metamorphosis of incest.
Oh. God.
Oh man, how messed up.
What?
And VHS is all along the walls of it. It's like, it really, that, I appreciate the fact that they didn't go into it too much in this movie, even though it does feel like a couple of missing plot points, like you said, with the, unlocking the window and stuff.
Yeah.
But it is something that's a little bit scarier left unsaid when you just see that wall of tapes with all the different names of the people, all the victims.
Yeah.
And, him laying in the bed just disheveled after years of doing that. It's like, wow, there's some messed up things went on in this house,
Yeah.
Beyond the stories that we've been watching up to that point.
Set design to a T.
Set design was phenomenal as far as the layout of the house. The dog cages, all the setups for the it leaves more to the imagination in that regard too. Seeing the dog cages, the kettles, the bowls that I guess these girls were eating out of, and
which you originally think is like Mother's doing, like you think that that's for her, like to help her keep people.
Right.
It's not for her at all. It was.
That's like it goes from it's like Tessa's story, Keith's story, Mother's story. Well, not really Mother's story. It's like Mother introduction, AJ's story.
Yes. Mother's
kind of story, and then all of a sudden AJ's backed into the corner. Mother backs off because she doesn't want to touch that room, and then you find Richard Brake as you find Frank, and then he goes into Frank's backstory.
Yeah.
So it's just like layer after layer after layer. You don't realize like how much is going on there, but when you think that the biggest issue in that house is Mother, you just assume that all of that is her.
Yeah.
And it really it changes the tone of what all of those set pieces mean once you meet Frank.
Yeah. Frank. You disgusting man.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was a good one.
Yeah.
Not to be missed.
I definitely appreciated this more after the couple of films that we've been seeing.
Yeah.
Laura, a big refresher from Bodies.
Yeah.
KK.
I know that's a hot take and we're sticking by it.
Luna. KK and Luna Reaper.
What Bartholomew?
What is the final verdict?
Barbarian was as entertaining as it was chaotic, with twists and turns that spin you around 360 and never stop from beginning to end. It takes some level of risk both in writing and cinematography, which certainly sets it apart from any recent horror films.
There is some lack of substance to certain plot points. Some things that are touched upon at certain points in the film never return to be explained further and leave you scratching your head if you're looking for that extra depth. However, what it lacks in cohesiveness, it makes up for in being oddly fun to watch. And for that, we give this film an 8 out of 10.
That's our show. Thanks for tuning in.
Until next time, Ghosts and Ghouls,
Have a frightful eve.